all these rejections from the middle Bollinger Band.
Resistance we're going to need.
If you actually see here, we get a
And we'll look for a healthy higher
I
low.
would not
don't have
be
a
convinced
pullback
to
across
enter
the
long
trend.
trade.
Hello everyone, hope you're doing super good today. It's Thursday, very boring day in crypto. Fortunately, Canadian MJ continues to cooperate with us in the downtime, but man, if I were only trading crypto, this is the kind of day where you need to just close your computer and go do something else because nothing was really going on. But what it's giving us on the daily time frame is the potential for an equilibrium because the bulls were unable to break resistance. So the high of today got very close to resistance, $30 away, and is now pulling back. So again, we're in two scenarios, both of which are pretty favorable for the bulls just in terms of looking into tomorrow. Because best case scenario, the bulls are going to get their act together and break 7777 for continuation and get over these daily exponential resistances. Or worst case, we're going to reject with this lower high and we're going to pull back and look to form a higher low compared to 7,355. So those are the two scenarios, essentially either a daily equilibrium or a bull break. And you can see that these exponential moving averages are closing in now. The gap between the 12 period and the 26 period is shrinking. So if we do get a bull break, the odds that the bulls will be able to turn both of these levels into support is becoming more likely as they're getting closer and closer. The 4-hour time frame here is still maintaining higher lows, but again, it would have been nice if the bulls could pull off a bull flag, healthy consolidation and then continuation, but it ended up being a little lower high and lower low. Very contained, very low volume. I don't see any red flags unless we break 7,484, but really it's just going to boil down to if we lose the 4-hour exponential supports, which are currently holding, if we lose those levels, then the daily equilibrium is going to play out, and we're going to look to pull back and form a higher low compared to 7,355. So again, very healthy consolidation at this point. No red flags. Contained. This is what I look at when I say contained consolidation. You know, how many times have we traded in a range this tight with, 24 candlesticks? Not very often. We usually see one of these spikes by now, and it's probably coming. If we spike down, we're looking at that support, 7,484, and if we spike up, we know the resistance, 7777. So forming a couple inside bars. Where do the RSI levels stand? Pretty much in the middle of the range. Hourly RSI, not giving us any info. 15-minute RSI, if we do drop to another leg down to a lower low, will be oversold. 5-minute RSI also will drop down to oversold if that's the case. But other than that, the longer term time frames are not giving us much information on the RSI, just the 15-minute RSI to be watching. And historically, just looking back, the dips down to 20 have seen some nice bounces over the last couple of days. So that's where we stand with Bitcoin. Not a whole lot going on. Bears have short-term control just because we've seen 6 red hours in a row. It's just not very significant where it's been, less than $100 range in that 6-hour span. So Ethereum on the daily, same scenario, still rejecting from exponential 26 period resistance. We have our high, low. This is looking like a lower high at 615.26, and the bulls will have to form a higher low compared to 574.31 to stay in this range that we're watching on the daily chart. So the 4-hour time frame here, also trying to hold on to exponential support, but losing it a little bit more. We have support of 592.63, and then that's our daily support after it. So again, not a ton of volume, not a whole lot going on. The hourly RSI is a little bit closer to oversold than Bitcoin is. Same setup with hourly inside bars, but if we drop down another leg lower, the hourly RSI will be approaching oversold, and it's bounced right around 30 twice now. So it's worth watching if we drop to those levels. And same thing, 15-minute RSI will be low. If we drop down to a lower low, it'll be oversold. So again, essentially the short-term RSIs being close to oversold are going to prevent us from any significant dump, in my opinion, which will keep us in those daily ranges, worst case scenario for the bulls as we head into tomorrow. So that's where we stand on Ethereum as well. Not a whole lot going on. We did just see the hourly exponential moving averages with a bear cross. Those are going to be resistance now. And Bitcoin close to a bear cross, but they are resistance because we did drop below them. So short-term momentum favors the bears, but daily chart still attempting this bounce to play out. We've got 3 trading days before the weekly candlestick closes, and it could certainly go either way by then. So now checking into IOTA USD and comparing it. This is Bitfinex. So we're comparing it to Bitcoin. How does it look compared to Bitcoin? And this weekly chart, more similar to Ethereum than to Bitcoin because it's not an equilibrium. It's our bounce from the low of consolidation, a solid month-long bounce in April, hit our high, and now we're looking at the higher low that formed. and we will watch to see if we form a lower high and a weekly equilibrium. But the bulls still have work to do on the daily, just like the rest of the bulls we were looking at. So we have an attempted support level at 162 and no follow through from that at this point. And a little bit of a fake out, it looks like, although I take that back. It's not a fake out if you look at the 4-hour chart, because it's just lower highs. We had a bounce attempt, 178 is resistance, lower low, lower high, 177 resistance. Bulls need a higher low compared to 162 and a bull break of 177. And because it's right there, we might as well just call it 178. Have to break that level for a clear 4-hour bull break and a change of the trend. If we get this higher low and then bull break those levels, we'll be looking back up to the top. So definitely a different setup than what we're looking at on ETH and BTC. And important to note that the bulls have to see the hourly chart shift. Similar action, you can see the past 6 hours, similar to what Bitcoin is doing. It's just the longer term time frames that have a little bit of a different setup. And it's the 4-hour time frame that's the most clear. And so far for me right now, Bitcoin and Ethereum and Litecoin, which we're not going to look at today because we'll look at it tomorrow. But those daily charts are the best levels to be watching right now in terms of clarity. And here on IOT, it's the 4-hour time frame, just a clear downtrend. The bulls have to change this trend, otherwise we are still in consolidation mode. So EOS on the weekly time frame, different setup compared to everybody else, and the most bullish because it's coming off of the all-time high. We pulled back and saw a healthy consolidation to form a weekly higher low, and now the bulls are trying to follow through with some upside. The daily chart changed the trend where we had a lower high, lower low pattern, higher low, break the lower highs, another higher low just formed here at 1283, and resistance right now is 1555. So we're seeing a similar tightening daily range. It's just happening from a way different standpoint on the longer term time frames. The 4-hour chart still maintaining bullish. We had a high, low, lower high, higher low, bull break of the equilibrium. And some people were looking for this to potentially indicate, are the other names more likely to break bullish now on their 4-hour time frames? And we're finding out that that has not been the case. So no clues from EOS, but it's clearly more bullish. And a lot of people say, why are you looking at it in USD? Because that's how I find the easiest comparison to looking at Bitcoin and Ethereum. I can very easily see that EOS is much stronger than any name that we've looked at on the weekly time frame, on the 4-hour time frame, and we just made a bull break. Now we're forming a 4-hour inside bar. So resistance 1448 and support is 1406. And we'll see if the bulls can get a break and continue to make their way up towards 1555 resistance, the high of this bounce so far at this point. So EOS looking good for the bulls. Healthy hourly consolidation, and we'll see if the bulls can get a bull break of the 4-hour inside bar, which is going to form here in an hour and a half, and that would be the ideal scenario as we head into tonight for the bulls. So still remaining patient at this point. I did add a little bit to an ETH position last night. We had a 4-hour inside bar that broke bullish last night. Didn't get much follow through, slightly in the red on that new small position, but I'm not making any kind of significant trades. I'm entering small positions, and that's because we're in an indecisive zone, not only in the daily chart within this current range, but on the weekly chart as long as we are seeing the Bitcoin equilibrium play out. So that's where we stand. I just want to make a point. I talked about GBTC yesterday and potentially shorting it, and it is on the OTC, which is an exchange, it's an exchange for stocks, and most brokers do not allow shorting OTC unless you're special, and I'm not special. I would have to call Fidelity and see if they would make me special, but that's just something to note, that it's not going to be just easy to short GBTC. You're going to have to work for it and going to have to call your broker, and I assume you're going to have some history with that broker in order for them to trust that you're not just some fool who's going to get in trouble shorting GBTC and getting stuck. So that's where we're looking heading into tomorrow. Again, not a whole lot going on today. Very limited action. And tell me when the last time we've seen, how many hours is this? 6, 9, 12, 15, 18 hours in less than $100 range on Bitcoin. Have not seen that in a long time. You look at the daily candlestick and you look at the size of it, and again, hasn't happened in months that we've seen this small of a range. What does it tell us? Not a whole lot. If we were seeing the bull break on this kind of volume and this kind of action, I would say we can't trust that move, but nothing's happened. We're staying within the pattern and we're seeing consolidation. So we'll check back in tomorrow. I'm sure we're going to have a little bit more information on where we're looking, but again, the more clear pattern on these major names is the daily chart. And it's very clear we have a lower high forming, and it's just a question of, do we have to pull back now and form another equilibrium heading into the weekend at this point? So short and sweet, I appreciate you watching. today's message got a whole lot of plants behind me, and they're all fake. This is a very temporary spot for me for a few more weeks, but as soon as I get to my more permanent spot, which for me these days permanent is 3 months, but as soon as I get to that spot, I'm going to be buying some plants, and I want to touch on real plants. Obviously, many of you know that I like farming and gardening and all that, but one thing that stuck out with me in college in an environmental studies class that I took was the vast majority of pollution damage in terms of humans, actually damaging us, is indoor pollution. And plants are obviously a perfect remedy for that. There's plants that can, have scientifically proven to purify air. Obviously, plants put off oxygen. That's a big benefit. So I like on my desk to have a bunch of living plants around, and that is a good thing. So keep an eye out on indoor pollution and do some, if you want to read about it, it's some pretty scary stuff, but some terrible things inside. Open some windows, get some air circulation going, get some living plants, and don't suffocate on smog. I appreciate you watching. We'll check back in tomorrow. Continue to do good things out there. I've been posting a bunch of different content on different places. Just put out a podcast with, I should probably have linked that, but I didn't. There's a podcast. I'll put it in the comments of this video. But just talking about crypto and technical analysis, and if you've been listening for months, not much new that you haven't heard, but perhaps something good to pass on to people who are taking a peek at technical analysis and not really sure they want to dip their toe in yet, or things like that. So thanks again. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks again. Thanks again.